Hello everyone, my name is Haley and welcome to my first ever video. That's an absolutely crazy thing to say, but here we are anyways. So like I said, my name is Haley and I'm new here to YouTube. It's something that I've been contemplating for a long time, whether I wanted to do it, whether I didn't want to do it, but I just figured that I may as well just do it. And there's no time like the present. So I figured that I may as well introduce myself as well as my two horses. And yes, I only have two. I might be a crazy horse girl, but there is a limit to the craziness, at least for now. So a little bit of backstory as to myself. I was actually not born on a farm, not really close to a farm, didn't come from a horse family at all, actually. I was born in Jarlaheim in the city. My mom was a lawyer and my dad was a teacher, so it just made the most sense for us to live in the city. So time went on, and when I was about 13, I read Black Beauty for the first time. And then I read it for a second time, and then a third time. And then as I was reading it the fourth time, I thought I might have a slight obsession. And after I figured out that the stem of it was horses, I knew something needed to be done about it. I talked to my mom and I begged her for a horse. She said, no, we couldn't move out of the city. There were too many things that the city had to offer. So that night, in distress, I went on my laptop and looked around for horseback riding lessons. The cheapest one that I could find within the closest proximity happened to be at Paddock Island, which wasn't far, but still a bit of a drive. So, with a little bit of convincing, my mom eventually agreed to let me start lessons. So I went every single Friday after school and I rode the sweetest little pony named Dawn. So the guy that owned the stables at Paddock Island was named Jerry, and Jerry had a couple working horses just for his crops and things like that. So Dawn was kind of a wild card. I found out later that apparently he had bought Dawn for his niece. His niece didn't really like Dawn, but hey, there wasn't a return tag, so he was just stuck with her. He didn't really want to sell her, so he just figured, hey, he'd bring her out for lessons. And that's how Dawn and I met, and the story just kind of continues from there. I actually started on Western because that's all that Jerry had to offer, and you know what? A Western saddle was better than no saddle at all. So I did lessons for about 3 years straight, mostly just walking and trotting, going in between cones and over trot poles, and the occasional trail ride. It was honestly nothing crazy at all. So, small change of scenery. I figured if I was going to be talking about her, I may as well stand in front of the one and the only. So, this is Dawn, and as I was saying, I rode her for about 3 years straight, pretty much just on Western, doing not much, but it was enough for me. And then on my 16th birthday, my mom had no idea what to get me. My only interest in hobby was horses. Wasn't really interested in clothes or books or experiences, so she just figured she would buy Dawn off Jerry. And honestly, she wasn't going for a bad price. In fact, I found out later on that my mom ended up talking Jerry lower on the price, so hey, she was a pretty good deal. And because Jerry wasn't using Dawn anymore for lessons, he asked if we could find somewhere else to put her, and we did. The nearest stables to our house in Jarlaheim was Jorvik Stables, and although it was a pretty penny to board her there, I worked my butt off after school, on the weekends, and during the summer, trying to give her the best care possible. But it wasn't long until senior year rolled around and things got hectic. So hectic, in fact, that the only time I really got to see Dawn was on the weekends. By the time I was done with school and off of work, all I really had time to go home and do was study. So I asked one of the managers at Jorvik Stables if they could use Dawn as a lesson pony, and she agreed. Dawn has always had a really sweet temperament, kind of like if you took an old lady and put her in a not so old horse. Senior year ended up going pretty well. I did well in all my classes. Dawn got ridden pretty much every single day, living a life of pure luxury. And a couple months later, I was fortunate enough to acquire a job at the Silverglade Equestrian Center. They were looking for a social media manager, and although I didn't really have much of a resume, they ended up hiring me anyways, which was definitely, definitely putting a play on me. And they offered discounted boarding for their employees, so I figured, hey, I would be getting a job, I would be paying less to have Dawn boarded, and I could move out to Silverglade, which is a town that I've always been interested in living. So I found a little apartment in Silverglade Village and started working at the equestrian center. Usually my days consist of going out to the stables, seeing Dawn in the morning, taking her out for a ride, giving her a nice little rinse and or groom, and then getting to work pretty much all day. Pictures, videos, editing, marketing, you name it, I'm probably doing it a whole day. But hey, it's not for nothing. I have a nice place to live, a good job, and a really cute pony. And that actually brings me to how I found my second horse. So one night, after way too many hours of working, I was scrolling on my phone in bed and I came across quite a peculiar ad. A woman named Margaret von Height, who is no unfamiliar name in the Silverglade area, was advertising a couple of sport horses up for lease. They were at a pretty reasonable discounted price per month, but the only downside was that for every show, she would take a percentage of your earnings. I figured, what the hell? Dawn is a little bit older, and we only ride Western, and it's mostly just pleasure riding, and I've really been wanting to get a sport horse of my own that I can train and learn English on and bring to shows and just have a blast with. So, on a whim, figuring I would probably get turned down due to my lack of experience in English writing, I applied anyways, and the next morning I woke up to notification from Margaret saying that I was in. I could lease Dove, and only in a matter of time, she had come to Silverglade Equestrian Center just for me. Margaret and I agreed that I wouldn't go right into competing because honestly, I didn't know a single thing about English riding. After I took her out for her first ride, me and Dove, I was honestly a little bit petrified. I was used to a big, bulky Western saddle, long jeans, dirty boots, and English was just not that. But over the next 6 months, I worked really hard. I learned everything that I could. I even took lessons. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and in time, I just got more comfortable. And about 7 months in, we started competing. And even though we started off small, we worked our way up fast. And we've been working our way up ever since. Dev and I are kind of what you may call a dream team, and in some ways my soul horse, but I'd say my soul is kind of split between her and Dawn. And believe it or not, within a year and a half, after working my butt off, pulling a lot of all-nighters, and clocking in early and staying late, I made enough to buy Dove outright. No loans, no more percentages for every show we competed in. She was mine, and it felt amazing. It's been 2 years now since I bought her from Margaret, and every single day I'm learning something new about her, whether it's the fact that she doesn't really like puddles or that she honestly has a knack for cross country. It's honestly still crazy to me to think that I have not one horse, but two. And I really wouldn't trade it for a single thing. Even though Dawn is a little bit old and pretty much semi retired by this point, the people that come for lessons here at SEC love her to death. She is just a sweetheart and she's comfortable to ride. And even though she is tiny, she is mighty. And Dove and I have competed in countless shows, and honestly, sometimes I think I'm more afraid than she is. She is fearless, headstrong, and always puts her best hoof forward, which is something that I would never trade for the world. But that's pretty much it for me this time, and those are my two lovely, wonderful horses. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it, and I really hope to make more videos in the future. Honestly, anything, just taking you guys along with me for the journey is really what I want to focus on. So I hope to see you guys in the next one, and I will see you soon. Bye.